The Royal Flush, 1, written by the young author iDolly Belle Marie, more commonly known as Tajani Wallace. Audio created by Speechify. Narrated by Nara. What nobody told you about being an art major in college was that if you did not get your big break in college, you were pretty much subjected to a regular job like everyone else. So I worked in an office alongside Raven. Now that I think about it, it is where we met and grew with each other. When I was in high school, before I even went to college or even started working here, I had an aunt that worked here. She used to pick me up from school when I was a sophomore, so I would go to work with her after her lunch break, and then she would take me home. Well, one random Thursday, Raven's mother must have been applying for a job because I saw her sitting in the lobby with her large round glasses, freckled face, and her large book with a phoenix on its cover. I didn't have anything else better to do, so I sat beside her, and we began talking. We haven't shut up yet. I sat with her during our lunch break in the lounge, eating a sandwich while she stuffed her face with fruit. We were sitting in a peaceful silence at first, until the boss's assistant came into the lounge, scanning the room with her slender emerald eyes. "Why do you think she is here?" Raven asked with a line between her brows, and I just lifted my shoulders. "I don't know. Someone must be getting fired." I snicker, and she nudges my shoulder. I nearly choke on my sandwich when I hear her, "Mary Jane is getting closer to our table." "Miss Sinclair?" She called out to me, and I quickly gulped down my bite before fixing my posture. "Yes," I responded, and she looked down at her clipboard before speaking again. "Mr. Goldovo wants to have a conversation with you. Do you mind taking the last 10 minutes of your lunch, or would you like to come after work?" I look at Raven for some sort of help, and she leans in close to my ear. "Girl, you better take these 10 minutes. You know how the movies go," she whispers, making me roll my eyes, and I draw my attention back to the assistant. "I'll just go now, thanks," I said to her, and I turned to look at my friend one last time before the assistant led me out of the lounge and down a few long hallways. "Did he tell you why he wanted to meet?" I asked, desperate for answers, but she did not bother responding. Her heels clicked loudly against the marble floor, and I hold the side of my arm, trying to go through every moment I have had in this office. What did I do wrong? Why would he possibly want to talk to me? Usually, when a boss wants to speak with an employee, it is either to promote you or demote you. Most of the time it was bad. 90% of the time, it was you being told that you were fired. I hoped that wasn't how this meeting panned out. Apparently, I was too deep in my thoughts, because we had come to a stop at his office door, and she had been calling my name. "Miss Sinclair," she called finally, more sternly. "He is right through there," she directed, gesturing to the large black door with Gianni Goldovo written in fine gold lettering. "Thank you," I said to her before pushing the door open, walking into his large office. It was probably the size of the main office area where most of the cubicles were. Nobody needed this much room. Flush to the side of the room was a mini bar counter and shelves stacked with alcohol of all kinds. In the middle of the room sat 2 long leather couches facing each other, with a fireplace stretching from the ground to the ceiling. Behind that was his desk, a sleek, dark brown piece that was kept neat with minimal decoration. He sat behind it, and his face ticked up when he realized I was there. "Good afternoon, Miss Sinclair," he greeted, something about him calling me that made me feel uneasy, confusedly. "Just Nara," I correct, and he gives me a small smile, barely a crevice. He holds a hand out, gesturing for me to sit. I do so, getting a better view of his face, one that employees barely saw unless he had something important to say. Long, slender legs that stretched out under the desk, a lanky figure that seemed slightly built from exercise. He almost resembled a beanstalk with his naturally cut figure and small chest, but his jaw was cut sharp and his eyes were a piercing gold. Fitting. I know you're probably confused, but I just want to start off by saying I'm not firing you, he began, and a wave of relief washed over me. Now I knew that I did nothing wrong, but the question of what the meeting would be about still stood. "I want to offer you a higher position." I felt the blood in my face be sucked away by that singular sentence. "What? Really?" ? I asked, barely believing him, and still questioning it after he nodded, period. "It pays double, and I will email you a list containing deeper details, but it requires a private meeting because of one aspect to it." "What do you mean?" I asked, crossing my arms and feeling my leg bounce up and down out of my control. "The job isn't at this location, it's at our location in Vegas," he revealed, and my lips parted in utter shock. Vegas? Across the fucking country? I couldn't possibly pack up my entire life and move to Vegas. "That is an amazing offer, Mr. Goldovo, but I begin to say, and something in him must have known I would politely decline because he stopped me in my tracks. I know it sounds like a big change, but if you let me explain a bit more, maybe I can lift your spirits." I let out a reluctant sigh, nodding for him to continue, but he stands instead, walking over to the bar. "Join me for a drink?" A line forms in between my brows and he looks at me confusedly. I can't drink on the job. I could get dash. I stop myself from continuing when I realize that the man who would fire me in any other instance is the one asking me to drink with him. Fine, I said, sitting beside him on the stool just as he poured me a glass of scotch. He takes a small sip before turning to me again. The company will do all the work in transferring your bank statements, mailing systems, and other paperwork over to Vegas if you will allow us to guide you. We will also provide you with a 2-bedroom apartment, and we will pay your first 2 months' rent so you can settle in. He explained, and as he said more words, my face went more and more pale. I did not know what to say or do. It was a lot, hitting my mind like a crash of thunder and completely throwing me off. He spoke with this tone I could not put my finger on. That sounded smooth but carried a weight that made the room feel so small and crushed you. God, I shouldn't have bailed on the rest of my lunch. I rubbed my finger against my palm, which was drenched in sweat. My words got caught in my throat yet again, and there was a tick of amusement in his gaze. Why me? I asked, finally sitting up and gaining a slither of confidence. I am very appreciative of the offer, do not get me wrong. He gives me another stare of confusion. But I have only been working here a few months, and I do not understand how over everyone else in this office deserve an offer like this. Most would call me a dumbass for questioning an opportunity like this, but with a case like this, it called for speculation. I was a fresh undergraduate and I had barely been here for 4 months. There were many more sophisticated, hardworking, and very deserving of this than I was, so why me? He barely even knew me. Hell, he was not even the one who hired me. His assistant did it. Please, Nara, just listen. I know all about the stuff with your father, he said, and there's a quick and sharp ache that creeps into my chest from that last word. I saw your family posting about him on social media when he passed. Most people knew him in Newark, you know. He said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. He wasn't lying. My father's family had been around in Newark for a long time, so his name and face were nothing short of familiar. What does he have to do with all of this? Nothing, trust me, but I am sure that his death must have done damage to his family, and I felt like you would be the best and most deserving candidate of this opportunity. Goldovo Studios is expanding more and more every day, and this Vegas location is our biggest one yet. I think it would give you a good place to start over and move on. I suck in a deep breath. He was right about another thing. His death did cause damage, majorly at that. It broke my family apart. After he died, most of the people from his side moved away, not being able to handle the constant memory that Jersey was of him. It brought me and my brother together, which mostly consisted of him being overprotective, but it pushed my mother further than she already was. The death changed something in her, stripped her of her once sophisticated demeanor and charming personality, and replaced it with someone cold and emotionless. Although she raised us, kept us fed, and made sure we stayed in school, she was neglectful, and she was not a mother in any way, shape, or form outside of that. She never showed up. I cannot remember a single graduation or event after his death that she was at. So yes, his death did do damage, and maybe a fresh start away from all of this was what I needed. But how could I let go of everything that reminds me of him? How could I leave the one place that I knew inside and out, that knew me inside and out? I mean, I would love to, but I am living with my brother, and some stuff with my mom is rough right now. Look, he said, cutting me off for a third time, making me grow annoyed. If they need jobs too, then let me know and I will help them. Whatever you need. Everything in me wanted to fully believe his concern, to believe that his intentions behind this job were sincere, but a speck of me still questioned it. I cursed at myself for being such an analyzer, but how can you not in a situation like this? As much as I would rather continue overanalyzing everything that could be wrong with this, I decided to pick the angel side of me and thank him for his kind offer. Can I have some time to think about it? I asked, and he nodded quickly, downing the rest of his drink, then looking at my glass that remained untouched. He didn't mention it and only walked me to the door, allowing me to thank him for his offer before I left. The assistant was already standing outside of the door waiting to escort me back. I was grateful, since I would not have known where the hell to go. I zoned out the entire trip here, and I was certain I would do the same thing back. Once I made it back into the lounge, all of the employees were either shuffling out of the room or packing their things up to do the same. Raven was still at our table, putting her things into her tote bag. Psst, her head cocked up, and she practically raced to me in the middle of the room. What the hell happened? She asked me. You will never believe it. I give her a quick rundown of everything, from the offer to the apartment, and finally finishing with his strange knowledge about my family. By the time I was finished, her jaw had fully separated from the rest of her face. Are you serious? He wants to send you to Vegas? Yes, and I have no idea what to do, I said, rubbing my forehead, and she looked at me with dead eyes. What question mark? I asked, shrugging my shoulders, period. I don't know why you're even trying to think about doing something other than taking the offer. she exclaimed, and I nudged her, but it doesn't stop her from talking. What do you mean? My entire life is in Jersey. Girl, what? I am your only real friend. Landon is older than you and can handle himself, and your mom is a grown woman who barely speaks to you, Nara. What else is here? The remnants of my father, a slither of the mystery that was his death. I don't know, I respond, and she lets out a deep sigh before placing a hand on my shoulder. I couldn't leave Jersey, especially Newark. It was the only place I had some recollection of my father, and everything I knew of him was here. I already do not know much about what happened, so why would I want to push myself further away from what reminds me of him? Girl, when are you going to stop using your dad as an excuse to not try something new? She huffed, and I did not have a rebuttal. I am not trying to hurt your feelings, Nara, but I wish you would understand that you will always have your memories of him, no matter where you are, and I would hate to see you pass up an opportunity like this because you want to hold on to nothing. She knew how much I hated when people said it, which was exactly why she repeated it. I do not know, I said, and her shoulders slouch in disappointment. Fair enough, she shrugged. But for whatever weird-ass reason he wants to send you to Vegas, it does not matter. All that matters is that you have a great opportunity in front of you, and it is yours to grab. She was right, completely right. I should take the offer. But how could she be so supportive of me leaving the place she is in? We had been friends for years, and I could not imagine living the rest of my life without her, right by me. That wasn't possible with me all the way in Vegas and her in Jersey. Okay, but what about you? He is not going to give you the same offer, so I will just be leaving you behind? I'm a big girl, I can handle it, she assured, making me huff out a chuckle. And plus, this job pays all right. I will fly to you and you can fly to me. I still have to talk to my brother about it. I remember with an image of Landon popping into my head. And another person, she warned with wide eyes, and I knew exactly who she meant. I brushed past her comment. I will give you your props. I guess I am more in favor of going now, I admit, which causes a big smile to stretch across her face. Good.